Hey, it's Marilyn Devonish here from transformationstm.com, and we are reaching the final countdown. So thought I would do a very quick summary of some of the things you can expect as a result of this incredible training. And I've had people come in, and at the end of the 2.5 days, they feel younger, they look younger. I've had people reverse brain damage, brain inflammation, get over the kind of effects of autism, dyslexia, and dyspraxia. I've had people heal physical injuries. I've had people let go of limiting beliefs and negative emotions that have dogged them their entire lives, that have had nothing to do with the subject matter that we're working on. I think really, you name it, over the past, where are we now? March 2002. So let's just kind of, for the sake of the maths, just call it 16 years. In the past 16 years that I've been teaching this, it has been nothing short of amazing. So what I thought I would do is as we're coming up to the final one for this year, and it'll be at least another 6 months before I run another live event, maybe longer than that, depending on how the schedule shapes up. I thought I would just do a very quick summary. So the testimonial you can see here on the screen is someone saying, "You've opened my eye, opened me up to so many possibilities." This was an author. "And inspired me to expand my life and knowledge. I don't feel as old as I did when I came," which is just lovely. Going to a workshop thinking you're just going to learn to read faster, and you come away feeling younger and more energized, which is always fantastic. Of course, we often have students coming along, and this was somebody who was studying for her ACCA exam, so doing her accountancy exams, was struggling. It was taking her several months to get through just a chapter. You might not be able to read it all here, but some of what it says is she was, taking her 2 months just to read, kind of get through a little bit of reading. And within a week or so of doing the focus reading workshop, she got that down to 18 hours. Now, she was feeling a little bit guilty about the 18 hours. And I was like, to go from taking 2 months to just 18 hours, including your note taking, is amazing. And this was just immediately afterwards. And of course, she got better and better as time went on. And she sent me a message via LinkedIn last year. The first thing I noticed, it says Marina Russell, ACCA. And so sent her a message back with congratulations. She sent me one back saying the photo reading played a massive part in helping her kind of do that. And I've had several people we had one lovely lady who was doing her teacher training exam, and she was on the verge of giving up because it was just too much like hard work. She was struggling, she was not getting through the reading, and she basically said to the group, "Look, if any of you suffer from insomnia, read this book, it will sort it out for you, no problem whatsoever." And by the Sunday, she's in love with the book. I haven't got her photo here, but some of you might have seen it in my previous videos, where she is absolutely beaming with joy and delight on the Sunday afternoon. And on the Friday afternoon, she was willing and ready to give up that training. So it has been quite miraculous in that respect. People aren't always studying. So this is from one of my lovely clients, Deirdre, who some of you might know Deirdre Barr. She's a yoga teacher, does many other things as well. And she came along. And one of the things that she found was, well, I'll read it to you because I know it's not particularly clear on the screen always. It says, "I can really recommend this workshop if you want or need to absorb information quickly and with depth. Don't assume or mistake it for speed reading. It is a really valuable tool. And the week I came back from it, I wrote a great 1,000-word essay on something I knew very little about within 3 to 4 hours research, included, without plagiarizing. And plus Marilyn, oh, that's nice. Plus Marilyn's a lovely engaging trainer. And for me, one of the things I'm always saying, if you want, and actually if you need to get more done in less time, one of the questions I get asked a lot is, how do I get so much done? And how do I appear to fit so much into a day? This is basically it in terms of, what I'm doing to power through and get a number of things done, and actually to do them very well. As Deirdre is saying here, it's not about kind of playing about and plagiarizing stuff and cobbling things together. And some of you might have heard me speak about this example over the years, and this was from the lovely Kay, who had brain damage 7 years prior, and I'd known her for many of those years. And year in, year out, she'd do the thing that people always do. Oh, I really must come to photo reading. Oh, I really want to come to photo reading. Yeah, great, you know, to find me. That's always my response. And I'm not chasing people. I'm not hounding people. Ask me whatever you want, but I'm not going to be chasing you. So she finally comes to photo reading nearly 7 years later. And she had been in a near fatal plane crash 7 years ago. Well, it would have been longer now. And had a brain damage. She'd done all the tests at, you know, St Mary's in London, whatever it was, and there's nothing more they could do for her. Now, she's a very capable woman. She found strategies and ways of working around that issue, but she knew what her performance was like, and she'd been like that all of those years, and there was really nothing else that could be done on a medical basis. By the Monday, and I think I might have it here actually. By the Monday, yeah, here it is. So by the Monday, she had a meeting. So photo reading workshop is 3 till 7 on a Friday, and then 9:30 to 6:30 on a Saturday and a Sunday. Now, with this particular group, they were there until nearly 10:30 at night, not because I was still teaching. They were just so blown away by the whole experience. We were just talking about life and the universe and everything in between. So about 10:15, Kay's like, oh my God, I've got to go move the boat, because she lives on a narrowboat. So she runs off and says, oh God, I've got clients tomorrow. She goes to her client session on the Monday, and she was like, I'm back. I was back to my old self. I didn't need to repeat a load of stuff. I didn't need to write a load of stuff down. I didn't need to do little mantras in my head. She was just back. And so one of the things she says that you kind of see on the screen here, had the most amazing weekend at Marilyn Devonish's photo reading workshop. So much value was delivered. And in my meeting this afternoon, everything came together in my mind so clearly, I hardly recognized myself. And Kay, for those of you who know her, she's the conscious accountant. And so that was, you know, really, really cool. And a couple of weeks later, she was in a meeting with a guy called Nick. We both know him. Nick's known Kay much longer than I have. They've actually worked together. And in the middle of the meeting, he just looks at her and says, Kay, you're back. As in, she's back to her old self before the brain damage, before the plane crash. And we were probably about 4 months in, because she was doing the photo reading mastermind group coaching, and same experience with her mum. Her mum just looked at her and says, Kay, you're back. All of that from 2.5 days thinking just going to learn to read faster. It's actually, you know, it's kind of beyond amazing. What else do we have? People often ask about who is photo reading for. One of the things I would say, you know, when I first started, I actually imagined that I would be mainly working with students. That is not the case. But, you know, when I have worked with students, this is one of the schools that I taught photo reading, and they had in what you call enrichment time. And so I would go in and run, you know, 60 to 90 minute-ish sessions. We had lots of breaks in between there, but I was working with the 8-year-olds through to the 16-year-olds. And that was pretty amazing. We had one particular, there's often, you know, in all the things I do, there's often like a standout case study or a standout person that sticks in the mind. And one of the students there, his name was Daniel. He's actually an actor. Now, it wasn't Daniel Radcliffe, but he was an actor, very creative, and therefore didn't necessarily fit into the academic mold. So Daniel had gotten unclassified when they did their mock exams. We did 3 modules in, and then he did a resit and he got a B. And the deputy head, lovely guy called Barry Birch, says, what's going on, Daniel? What happened? How did you go from unclassified to a B? And he said, I just did what Miss Marilyn told me to do, which was all the stuff with the photo reading. And, you know, it's very interesting also working with the 8-year-olds right through all of the age groups up to age 16, because you see distinct changes in people's brain. Peer pressure comes into it as well. Learning styles, patterns, paradigms, limiting beliefs. So, you know, yes, we do have students, and oftentimes we have students on the workshop as well. The youngest so far has been Eve. She was 7. She had her 8th birthday on the workshop. She was just mind-blowing. And my most senior, let's put it that way, my most senior delegate was he was like, I think it was 76, and he was an ex-RAF pilot and everything in between. And in terms of job titles, it's a challenge to kind of go, oh, it's for this, because I've had, you know, accountants and bankers and marketing specialists right through to crystal healers, and, you know, of course, entrepreneurs, right through to doctors and surgeons and rocket scientists. And I'm really not kidding you about the rocket scientists. I taught photo reading, did some workshops at Cranfield University on one of the RAF bases. And when I was going around the room just saying, you know, where do you work, and, you know, what's your objective for being here, and what do you most want to take away, I actually thought they were pulling my leg first when the first person said I'm a rocket scientist. And the good job I didn't laugh, because of the like 12 or so people there, 7 or 8 of them were actually rocket scientists. And they were, at the end of it, I have to find their forms, actually, their testimonial forms, but at the end of it they were all saying, we think all of our undergrads and even postgrad students should go through this. It's absolutely amazing. And these are people who are qualified up to the eyeballs and beyond, and they were still getting that massive value from it. You know, one of the things that did make me laugh about it is actually not funny. It's not funny from a marketing point of view, but it was funny from a, oh good, I've got a marketing expert coming on the workshop, maybe she can give me some tips and pointers. And what she said was, at the end of it, having done the 2.5 days, her feedback was, I see your issue with marketing, how to get people to believe all of the changes with something so seemingly simple as photo reading, a good dilemma. So she's a marketing expert. And one of the, you know, if there are a few things people say most often, they get there having maybe read about photo reading, heard me talk about photo reading, heard some of my clients talking about photo reading, and then they'll go, why isn't everybody here? I expected 200 people in this room, not like 15 or 20. Again, that's a question I cannot answer. If I could, yeah, I would answer it totally. Another thing that people always say is, I wish I had come when you first told me about it. And I mean, I've had a couple of people get a little bit annoyed that I didn't make them come, and a couple of people get quite emotional about it. And you know, Kay will tell you herself, she was quite emotional about it. We were walking back to the station on the Friday nights. We'd only done 4 hours, and she had a daughter with her who'd just finished university and was, you know, pretty much at breaking point with the stress of it all. And she looked at me and said, I wish I had come when you first told me about it, because it would have saved me a lot of angst and her daughter. So, but her daughter, her daughter did use the skills to start bringing up confidence levels about what she wanted to do with her work and career. That's great. So she's used it in a lovely way. But that's one of the things that people say most often. The third thing they often say is, you're not charging enough, because in terms of what's delivered and what they get, even just on that. And I've had one of my attendees who is a spiritual mentor, and with just one of the processes that I taught on the Friday night was this thing that we call the tangerine technique. He's like, I've been trying to reach higher states of consciousness for years, and it's a real hit and miss affair. He said, I'm doing it at will with just the one thing you've told us. And he said, you know what, I could go home today, not come back for the rest of the weekend. I've more than had my money's worth. So it's a really, really interesting one. And I know for myself, in terms of my starting point, for those who don't know, I was diagnosed with what was thought to be early onset Alzheimer's in my 20s. And a bit like Kay, who had told they couldn't do anything to reverse the brain damage, I was told there's nothing more that could be done for me. And it just so happened that the photo reading leaflet came through the door. Because actually they still do it a bit now, learning strategies. They put stuff in the post. And so I opened this leaflet and I read through it, you know, double, treble your reading speed, drinking information like you're drinking it in through a fire hose, improve your memory and your recall, you know, supercharge your creativity, tap into your intuition, pass exams more easily, you know, be at the top of your game in your business. And I was like, yeah, really? And then it got to the bit which it still says on the back of the book about reading at 25,000 words per minute. And that's when my mind was like, man, this is some American hype. But I still gave them a couple of $100 because I was like, you know what, I'm desperate. I didn't actually use the information when I first got it, I will be honest. because I kind of listened to the first, it was tapes back then. I listened to the first couple of tapes, thought, I don't know about this. It just seems a little bit out there to me. So I didn't really bother. And this was probably 1997, 1998. And it wasn't until October 2000 when I went on a personal development training, and the guy who's running the training said he reads 20 to 30 books a month. I was like, okay, number one, has he got a life? But number two, what the hell is he doing? How is he doing that? And then he said he's photo reading. I was like, I got those tapes at home. And I made a decision then to go back and listen to them and do what it said, rather than trying to second guess and think I knew best. And the rest, as they say, is history. Within 3 weeks, I went from having the worst test on the NLP practitioner training, and there's like, I don't know, 70 or so people on that training, and I went 3 weeks later to having the best test on the master practitioner training, and the master prac test was way more complex than the practitioner test. And then that took us into the November, early December. In May 2001, I finished my trainer's training closed book exam, which people were still writing at the end. Some people didn't finish, 7-8 hour exam, all closed book. I was finished in 3 hours, and they thought I cheated because it looked like I copied the textbook. And the only thing I did differently was learn to photo read. And at that time, because my memory was so bad and I was struggling so much, I was studying to be a chartered accountant at the time, and I'd just taken a couple of weeks off to do the NLP to help with my communication skills. And because my doctor said, look, I can't help you, I don't know what else to do for you, so the only thing I can do is I can give you a medical certificate, which I will send to the ACCA, and we'll see if they can give you extra time in your exams to try and make up for the fact that you're having such problems just assimilating information and stringing it together. And that's actually what happened. And so at the time I did my NLP trainer's training exam and finished the 1-day exam in 3 hours, my medical certificate was actually still valid. And so, having those things happen in very quick succession, I was like, oh man, I had no intention of becoming a photo reading instructor when I got those tapes, but with all the things that happened, I just started to think, wouldn't it be amazing to work with people like myself who have problems with memory, problems with learning, problems with recall? And that's how it started. However, I realized pretty quickly that even if you didn't have brain damage, or didn't have dyslexia, you didn't have dyspraxia, you didn't have autism, all that sort of stuff, I then started thinking about, well, what happens if you use this and there's nothing wrong with you, and you start to next level your brain? And that is then where it got very exciting for me. And that's what I again started to do. And people were having just the most miraculous and incredible experiences. So it's been a journey to say the least. It's been absolutely amazing and incredible. Yeah, I never thought I would, you never know what's coming up. I've been teaching photo reading at this point. I became an instructor in March 2002 because I was just so blown away by it all. I've run workshops every single year since that time. I never thought I would see the day where I considered taking a break from running the workshops, but I actually feel that time is coming. And also I want to look at different ways of delivering this information, because I already know from the 1 day, it's a mix of photo reading, what is now some of my neuro success stuff, information about how to improve your, I do a section on memory and some stuff on intuition and that sort of thing. And I know from that 1 day online video DVD that people can watch that and feel as though they're in the room and get incredible results. Some of you might have seen the stuff that I shared about Sita, who was doing a counselling exam and had failed. And her tutor said, look, if you don't pass next time, maybe this isn't the course for you. And so she took herself through my photo reading online training. It's a 1 day training of, a different kind of, we go through the photo reading, and I also do some additional things on there about memory and mind mapping, all that sort of stuff. So she took herself through that DVD, did the exam 2-3 weeks later, and she said, Marilyn, I was just so relaxed and so calm during the whole thing. It was, as she said, I could see, it's closed book, but she said said I could see my mind maps in the exam, and that's what happens for people. And she passed. And so, you know, I know that people can get massive value from watching a DVD, a video. And so what I'm also going to be, the first one is at the end of next month, is I'm going to be running an online webinar version where people can do the full 2.5-day training. Difference is you can be anywhere in the world and you can do it from the comfort of your own home, and it's going to be similar to the kind of interaction we're having now, although it's ramped it up a bit, because you can either switch on your microphone so you can interact in real time. You can also switch on your video camera if you wanted to ask questions or you want to demonstrate what you're doing. And so I'm going to really start looking at doing more of that. So there's a likelihood I won't run any live, you know, in-person workshops next year, or I might just do one. But you know, I'll see what the new year holds. But if you definitely wanted to do an in-person training, then that is happening the first weekend in October. So that's 3 weeks away now, and then the online webinar version is the end of October. So yeah, so exciting times, you know, so making some changes and looking at the way that I do things. But it has been quite a journey, and I think I knew, you know, and even the way it started, there were some of these wonderful synchronicities. So one day I was at home. I was working for an NLP training company, ridiculously busy schedule. There were times I was doing a 29-day week, literally just back to back, and no time off at all. Half day here, half day there, but it was just crazy in terms of, you know, running a prac, then a master prac, then presenting magically, and then Secret of Creating Your Future, then went back to do another. It was just like boom. And just one day, I don't know what possessed me, I sent an email to Learning Strategy saying, I just want to find out a bit more about how do you become a photo reading instructor. And she said, well, actually, there's a training. It runs twice. At that point, they're running it twice a year. I think they do it once a year now. And she said it's starting in a week and a half's time. And it's full, but somebody has just dropped out. She says, we're going to press tomorrow with the course materials. So we were just going to not do that print run, but if you want to come, you can have the place, let us know. And I was like, oh my God. So I, you know, looked at the dates, and weirdly, of all the time in the schedule, it was the one time where I had a block of a week. A couple of days that I should have been working, and a friend of mine, Paul Vernon, said, well, look, if you want to go, I'll cover those days for you, because he used to do the job that I was doing before I did it. He was, you know, he held the fort while they were looking for someone else, and I was kind of running the room, so in charge of everything that happened on all of those trainings. So spoke to my boss. He said, yeah, if you want to go, that's fine, Paul can cover. And so ended up, you know, going on the training with a couple of days' notice. They then said to me, you know, of course, the prerequisite is you've done a photo reading workshop. I'm like, no. All I've done is my tapes, which still sit behind me for nostalgia purposes. So I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And so I start doing some research, and lo and behold, I was flying something like, I don't know, the Tuesday or something like that. And there was a guy running a workshop on the Saturday and Sunday in Brixton. So I'm like, oh my God. So I booked myself on that. I do that workshop. So I do the Saturday, I do the Sunday. Now, because I had been working, we run trainings at the weekends, and so I'm still doing what I'm meant to be doing and all the handover stuff. Gets to the point, a day I'm flying, I haven't got a suitcase. So Paul, my friend Paul, comes to pick me up, and I said, what am I going to do? And he says, well, buy one at the airport. So I've got all of my clothes, this is the honest truth, all of my clothes in black bin bags. We load these bin bags into Paul's car. He drives me to the airport. You know, when they ask you that question when you get to the gate, did you pack these yourself? I'm like, dude, I just packed them on the floor in the airport. If you check that security camera there, you will see me packing this bag. Because Paul and I were in the airport on our hands and knees, just chucking all of the stuff out of these black rubbish bags into a suitcase, closed it up, got on a plane. You know, so literally when I sat down, and everybody's very experienced, I'm like, I'd only learned photo reading 2 days before in terms of doing the workshop. It was just crazy, but it was so crazy in a wonderfully synchronistic way that I knew it was one of the things that I should be doing in this life. And this is a bit of feedback from Lynette Ayres, and Lynette is a master trainer. Bar at the point I did it, bar I think 5 or 6 people, Lynette had trained every single instructor in the world. So if you're in Japan, she's flying to Japan. If you're in Watford, where I was, she's flying to Watford. So she travels the world, and this is what she says, because every year we had to send in written reports and comments and feedback from our clients. And the honest to God's truth is, I don't ask me why, but I watered mine down a bit, because I read them and I was like, they're probably going to think I make this stuff up. People go, it's the best workshop I've ever been to. It was, it was amazing. It was wonderful. I can't think of anything that should be changed. Keep it just as it is. Don't change a thing. Marilyn's amazing. It was just getting a bit like, oh my God. So I actually used to water them down for a bit. But Lynette said, wow, Marilyn, I think you should laminate your report and hang it on your wall. What incredible comments. And they don't surprise me one bit. You are and always have been a totally present instructor. You create such a fantastic environment and have such high energy. How can your participants not learn? Which is very, very sweet of her. And yeah, we had some interesting times. She saw my crazy creative brain in action for sure, and questioned a few things I was doing actually when she flew over to assess my instructor training. And all she said when I pushed back and said, no, I'm doing it this way, she was like, okay, well, this would be interesting. I'm interested, and then at the end, she just came up, because it was around my mind maps, and she just said at the end, very nice use of mind maps. And so I'm like, and I teach that same weird process to my clients, because it really is about this thing here, your brain. When you figure out how your brain works, you can utilize that thing and use it, really start tapping into the power of it. And so, that's a big part of what I'm doing. And the quote, ignore the 20% off, that's from a different time, it's not available now. But I remember this guy, very, he's always like, he never knew what he was thinking, very serious, always just like, there's no real emotion from him at all. And he just walks up to me at the end and he goes, the best personal development course I've ever attended, hands down. That was it. That was like, bang, that was the statement, which was very, very cool. And I don't know if people expect it to be a personal development training, because when we talk about, photo reading, reading faster, getting through written information more quickly, being able to remember and recall what you've read, it doesn't do it justice. It really doesn't do it justice. And this is, some of you might know the lovely Lee Pycroft. If you've ever watched Britain and Ireland's Next Top Model, Lee is the makeup artist who has been doing that for many years. And if you've ever seen the cover of Vogue magazine and all of that, the likelihood is she has done some of those faces. And, Lee said photo reading definitely shows up in unexpected ways. I did a screen test the other day, so just a few days after she attended the workshop. She did it in March last year. No, I think March or April last year. She said, I did a screen test the other day and mind mapped the whole thing. The feedback I got was, you were brilliant. And she just said she just felt it. You feel when the preparation is different. And Lee is someone who's behind the camera. So although television and all of that and celebrity and Hollywood and red carpets are her thing, she's normally behind the camera. So it was just a slightly different proposition this time, being on camera and doing it that way. But again, you can use it in such interesting ways. And I always say, for people who want to improve their presentation skills, for those who want to be able to articulate their thoughts and ideas without necessarily just sitting and reading your notes, it can be absolutely incredible for doing that. It certainly took my speaking and my ability to kind of be on stage and just know what I wanted to say, have the ability to answer questions and not be afraid of Q&A and being in front of people. It just took that to a whole another level. And so it's really, really brilliant for that. Definitely for, enhancing your creativity, opening up your intuition. If you're into meditation, higher self, it will just, take you to the stratosphere with that one. For those of you who, let's say, participate in stuff like Tarot Tuesday, one of the ways that I'm doing that and having that kind of stuff happen, a lot of it is down to the basis of photo reading. And then at the other end of the scale, we've got like, you know, crazy cool stuff that happens in terms of, you know, people shifting and changing and resolving and healing stuff that has nothing to do with reading. So this is one of my lovely clients who was like, I didn't know you're a doctor as well, having diagnosed some health stuff just when we were doing, because on the Friday we do 3 till 7, which is photo reading. And then for people who want to stay, and I've only ever had 2 people leave and they both regretted it. But, you know, for everyone who wants to stay between 7 and 8, I do a HUNA session, a HUNA belief change session. And I've had people come in on the Friday with a lot of emotional baggage. They walk back in on a Saturday, they are free of that baggage. They walk out on the Friday, they're a different person. And there's one lovely lady who's got 4 daughters, and she says, I was a different person when I went home on Friday night. My kids noticed, my kids felt it. She attended in March last year. In April last year, because I couldn't fit everyone in on the March training, so I did another one in the April. She sent her 4 daughters, and I was sharing the example. I didn't say who she was, I just said I had somebody previously attend photo reading, and she said she went home a different woman on the Friday, and her family noticed, and all of them in unison just started laughing and nodding. They went, that's our mum. And so just really profound. And I was at the Yes Group last year, and 2 of her daughters were there. And just to see them in action was just quite amazing. And she says, Marilyn, they have not been the same since they attended the photo reading workshop. Their level of confidence, their ability to be out in the world, just taking on new challenges. It's amazing. And I had that, the very first time I experienced the impact of that was, and he was actually, I think, my very first one-to-one photo reading client. So he didn't do a workshop. We just did a couple of hours one-to-one work. And I was doing a keynote presentation for one of these network marketing companies. I put up a slide about who I am and what I do, and photo reading was just one of the things on the list. And at the end, she said, can you tell me more about that? She said, my son's got dyslexia and dyspraxia. He's just been basically booted out of his private school. He only got in because his older brother, who's academically very bright, got into the school. So he got in family connection, wasn't making the grade. They've asked him to leave. He's had to go back to the local comprehensive. She says, is there anything you can do? So I said, okay, well, you know, so I went around, taught him the basics of photo reading. So, you know, we used the photo reading book. I was explaining the process. But before we even started, before we got into the book, because I like people just to have, you know, an experience beforehand, just let me know who you are, what's your learning style, what can you already do? And we were just playing with a random book from the shelf behind us. And he said, oh, those aren't my books, they're my dad's. I don't read those. And I said, oh, just grab one. I just want to show you some stuff. And so, you know, I'm demonstrating with this book, but I've got him using his dad's book, and I'm just demonstrating how do you know, get yourself prepared, how do you do a preview, this is what you do, it just takes, you know, a minute to a minute and a half, so 60 to 90 seconds, and I'm showing him how to do that, and I'm saying this is how you photo read. We weren't yet photo reading, I was just kind of demonstrating, and he was just flicking through, and we do that. And then I said something, he said, oh yeah, that was in the book. I said, what do you mean? And he says, the book I've just been reading. And I think, we haven't started yet, mate. And he quotes something from the book, and I'm like, okay, cool. And he finds it straight away, cool. And so this kind of, that's how the whole thing went. And I stayed for dinner. I said to his mum, make sure I sit next to him at dinner, because when you're a working hypnotherapist, when you're at work, you're never just chatting. Don't worry, I'm not doing it when I'm not working. You're not paying me enough when I'm socializing. And so I do this, and I don't really, you know, think too much more about it. She phones me up the next day, and she says, oh my God. She says, I came down, he was talking to his sister. That's all she said. So I'm waiting for the punchline. I'm like, yeah. She said, oh, you don't get it. You don't understand. He never talks to his sister. They just like grunt at each other. They're like ships in the night. But she said it wasn't just that they were talking. That in itself was amazing. She says, what was really incredible is that what he was saying, she says, I've never heard him talk like that before, particularly about something he's just learned. So he's saying, well, what you want to do is you want to get yourself physically and mentally prepared, and then you want to preview the book. So that would take 60 to 90 seconds, and you're looking at the front cover, you're looking at the back cover, you're looking at the contents page, you look at, and he's just giving this like blow by blow account of how to photo read. And she was like, I can't believe that, Marilyn, never seen him like that before, thank you so much. Didn't really think, I was like, brilliant, amazing, my work is done. Several months later, I'm in what was then the Harlequin Centre in Watford. I say what was then because it's now the Into Centre. And I was in Marks and Spencer's in the food hall, and she walks along. So, oh, hi, how are you? She says, oh, a lot of my clients say this a lot. I've been meaning to call you. She says, and he had dyslexia and dyspraxia, and history and all that sort of stuff, names, dates, places, facts and figures, real struggle. So she says he got a B in his history exam. He's got a Saturday job in WH Smith's. He's spiked his hair and he's got a girlfriend. Now, I can't lay claim to the spiking of hair, getting a girlfriend. However, the confidence that comes from knowing there's nothing wrong with you, from knowing you're not stupid, from being able to figure out how your brain works, and then doing what I call having the aha moments and the light bulb moments, where suddenly the light bulb comes on, everything makes sense, and you find your own way to make sense of and assimilate what's happening around you. That's a game changer. And the amount of confidence that comes from that then creates what I call that lovely ripple effect to go out and do all these other cool, crazy, amazing things. And he was teenager at that point, I don't know, 13, 14, something like that. I remember seeing on Facebook a few years ago when he was celebrating his 21st, and I saw the photo, I'm like, my God, and I messaged his mum, I'm going, is that Andrew? She's like, yep. And she said he's just gone from strength to strength. Following that very little interaction, we probably didn't spend any more than 2.5 hours together. And so when I say that photo reading is life-changing, and you know, I use the hashtags game changer, life-changing, transformation, I don't use any of those things lightly. I absolutely mean it 150 million%, because I could sit for the next 20 hours and bore you with stories of the incredible, amazing, mind-blowing things that clients have done using photo reading, and how they've taken their skills off in new directions. Everything from, I remember I had a guy who's a triathlete, by his admission, he'd had a crap year, had been eating crap, doing crap, and you know, was just not cutting it. And we were on a photo reading mastermind group session. He was in the very first photo reading mastermind group session that I did, and I says, well, look, you know what, my suggestion is do this from step 1 of photo reading, and let me know how you get on. He comes onto the call the following month, and he says, I beat my personal best. Didn't do anything differently. Obviously, I haven't had time to turn around all of the bad behavior and all of the eating rubbish. However, I just did what you said. And then a few months later, I ran another photo reading mastermind group, had somebody on, she wasn't a triathlete, but she's a runner. And she was having a bad time. So I just shared what I shared with this guy and said, well, why don't you do this from step 1 of photo reading? She does it, comes on the next month. She's like, I beat my personal best. Really? I mean, this is about reading faster, but it's not. And when I say that photo reading goes way beyond reading, again, I can't even begin to articulate, you know, what that statement actually means. And it's almost like reading is like, yeah, whatever. You know, it's just like the baseline. Yeah, that's fine. Let's double, treble, quadruple your reading speed. We're all good. Read at 25,000 words per minute. Photo read a whole book in 5 minutes from start to finish. Learn strategies to remember and quote you read. That's like, yeah, baseline stuff. It's the other stuff that comes after that is where it gets interesting. So if you did want to join me, you know, go to the website. It's www.transformationstm.com/photo reading, and transformations is TRANCE, formations, F for Freddy, ORMATIONS, TM as in trademark, /photo reading. That's how you spell it if you kind of want to see the spelling. And with, it's a bit of a longer one actually. Let me see if I've got the link. Probably have. So it's a way longer one. If you wanted to do the online global training at the end of next month, let me put that. So I've just put the link for the global training into, and that's going to be the video webinar training. And so what I'll be doing is I'll be delivering for those. while I'm here, I'll put in the link for the photo reading live training and also the online 1-day video DVD training as well. Put that in there. Right, so those are in the comments section of the video, and if you happen to be watching this on YouTube, I will also put them in the comments section below as well. And if you have any questions, if you have any queries about anything, you know, I've talked about, any of the examples I've shared, you know, people often will go, well, what about this, what about that? And I'm like, really? And I've had, you know, math, I remember I had a guy who was a maths teacher, not just a maths teacher. Of course, he'd done A-level maths, he'd done a maths degree. He was actually doing his maths PhD at the time. And he said during one of the photo reading mastermind group sessions, there was a particular equation he could never get. Didn't understand it when he did A-level, didn't understand it when he did his degree, does not understand it now doing his PhD, so has never really taught it to his students. And so I gave a few suggestions during the mastermind group session. We come back on the following month, and people often say, oh, I haven't really done much photo reading this month. Nothing really happened. And then they start talking, and it's just like this massive unfolding of all of this incredible stuff. And he started off like that. So I said, you know, and so, you know, to have this thing called good and or new. And he said, well, what was good? I could never do the Rubik's Cube as a child. I photo read a book on the Rubik's Cube, did it like half a dozen times. Bang, 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 bang. Done, 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 done. Over and over and over again. Cool. And then he says, oh, yes. Yeah. He says, you know that equation I said I could never get? He said, I photo read a few books around it. I understand it now. And not only do I understand it, I've been able to do the equation. I've been able to break it down, and I've taught it to my students. So when people say, what subject is it for? And I say, it is not subject dependent. I've had lawyers pull off the most amazing feats and impress people who have been in the industry for 10, 15, 20 years. All my clients have done is photo read a book on the subject, and the person is thinking they're an expert. So I've had everything from lawyers right through to, as I said, accountants, marketing executives, you name it, they've done it. And also maths and formulas. And so it really isn't subject dependent. You take it in whatever direction you want to take it. It is just incredible. And one of my lovely attendees, a lovely lady called Penny Kroll, some of you might know her from her meta medicine work. The video is on my website. It's either on my testimonials page or on the photo reading page, maybe both. And one of the things she said, if you are thinking of doing any training, do the photo reading first, because it will help you with whatever else you're doing. And so one of the reasons I have done probably, you know, close now to 20 different modalities, and I've had it happen several times. Any of you speak to Anne Jersh, go and speak to her. I know a lot of people that follow me follow Anne as well. When I did my future life progression training, the training finished on the Sunday. I had done all of my practice sessions and written up my case studies by the Monday afternoon. I had sent them over to her by the Monday evening, and I was, and she says, Marilyn, that's the fastest. She said, I've got people who've done the training years ago who have not submitted their case studies yet. I was done in a couple of hours. The same happened when I did my soul plan reading practitioner training. I'd lined up all of my test subjects and all the rest of it, and within a couple of days I'd sent them all off to get my certificate and qualify. And so, and it's not because I'm super duper special, it's because I know how to photo read and use my brain. And so, you know, just getting through stuff, doing it quickly and doing it well. Because there are people who just know me as a management consultant. They have no idea about the other stuff I do. And not my words, theirs, but one of the best management consultants they've ever met, very thorough, can come in and just understand the situation, hit the ground running, come in, get on with it, run things like I've been there forever. And again, that was in central and local governments, things like the Treasury Department, Department for Transport, Foreign and Commonwealth Office, Office of Deputy Prime Minister, you know, Ofsted, nothing to do with the esoteric stuff that I do. So oftentimes I am going in and I'm having to kind of learn from scratch what's going on in those organizations. And then I could walk out of there and an hour and a half later be doing a hypnotherapy session or a breakthrough session. And my clients are like, wow, this is amazing. They got no idea about the other stuff that I do, because, you know, one of the things that photo reading has afforded me is the ability to change hats. and to kind of, you know, switch, go, right, I've just done that. And there are times I do a full day on site in terms of management consultancy. I would come home, get home around about 6:45. I would start a breakthrough coaching session at either 7:15 or 7:30, finish at 9:30 p.m. I remember there's one particular day I then got on the phone, did an interview with a radio station out in America. Once I'd finished that, I wrote a magazine article for a piece I'd been commissioned to write for Here's Health magazine. And then once I finished that, I then started writing a proposal. That was all in one day. And all of those things went superbly well because of this kind of brain switching thing that photo reading allows you to do. If you want to take it in that direction, not everybody does. You might just want to focus on the one thing that you're doing, and that is very cool. So yeah, it's been a life changer. It's been a game changer for me. When I say to people about the Alzheimer's thing, they're like, really? They almost can't believe it. I can believe it because I still, you know, I haven't put the picture in here, but I've shared the picture of the letter from the ACCA confirming the medical diagnosis and all of that sort of stuff. So it was floating around on my page somewhere if you wanted to see it. But yeah, it's been amazing. So if you do want to join us and experience this incredible system for yourself, then a couple of opportunities this year, and I can't say what will happen next. Nobody can, of course, but you know, my plans are different than they have been for the past 16 years for next year. But if you definitely want to do it, come and join us next month. Cool. Well, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. And if you know anyone who might benefit from this information, it may be you've got children, nieces, nephews, grandchildren that would, you know, benefit from a study perspective, or you know people who are business owners who are busy, even overwhelmed or struggling, and they would benefit from being able to get more done in less time with way less stress, then, you know, feel free to like and share this video with them, send them the link, tag them in, whatever it might be. That would be amazing. And for those of you who have been students, continue to share your wonderful stories, because it really helps when it's not just me saying it. Because, you know, Cialdini calls it social proof. Of course I'm saying it, and I've had somebody call me a liar pretty much to my face and say that I make these testimonials up, which is absolutely not true. So, you know, it's always lovely to have people share their experiences as well, and say to others what they have done, so it's just not me saying it all the time. So yeah, share away. Cool. Well, thank you so much for watching. Catch you all later. And here's to happy and healthy brains that continue to work and function even when we have been diagnosed with some pretty dire stuff. So catch you all later. Bye-bye.